Well, some leaders are forged in fire, others walk into it willingly. Fire Lieutenant and licensed professional counselor Taylor Montey has done both. In this episode, I sit down with Taylor to explore the powerful intersection of mental health, physical fitness, and leadership, no matter what profession you're in. Taylor shares how she overcame early setbacks on her path to become a firefighter, and how those same lessons shaped Mindset Reps, her pioneering power program combining movement, therapy, and mentorship. Together, we discussed what makes first responders uniquely vulnerable to burnout and trauma, how to build real resilience, and why leadership today requires both strength and self-awareness. Whether you're in uniform, in leadership, or simply navigating your own pressure-filled calling, Taylor's story offers tools and perspectives that will leave you better equipped to serve. My name is Chief Randy Brugman, and this is the Leadership Crucible Podcast.
There are moments in every person's life when they face intense adversity. They're crucibles that forge who they become as individuals and as leaders. Now more than ever, we need leaders who are called to a higher standard, focused on leaving it better than they found it, and paying it forward to the next generations. Now, let's join Fire Chief Randy Brugman as he speaks with leaders from all walks of life, as he explores and learns from their personal journeys and the crucibles that have forged them into better leaders and better people.
Well, Taylor, welcome to the Leadership Crucible Podcast. Great to see you again.
It's great to see you too. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, absolutely. So, what drew you into the fire service, number one? And then, how has that really impacted the journey that you've been on?
Sure. So my story is a little unusual. I didn't ever think about becoming a firefighter when I was growing up, or it as a career path at all, actually. When I was in college, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, which is, I think, where a lot of teenagers and young adults fall, and it's just not talked about as much. But as I was going through my college education, there were a few things that I was really interested in, and one of them was emergency medicine. And so I actually took an EMT class in order to explore emergency medicine. And one of my friends was volunteering at a local fire department and said, hey, they have volunteers that are just EMTs. That might be a really great opportunity for you to get some experience doing EMT work and see if that's what you're interested in. And once I got into the fire department and started volunteering, I started really learning about the fire service and really fell in love with it. So that's my path on how I even got connected with the fire service. But I think one of the things that has really shaped my journey is my journey to actually getting hired as a firefighter. So I grew up playing tennis and swimming. I wasn't doing a lot of weightlifting, so I wasn't really strong when I was going through college or even in my younger years. And being a firefighter, as you know, requires a lot of strength. There's a lot of physical ability tests and things that you need to take in order to become a firefighter. And so as I was volunteering at the fire department and people were trying to convince me to become a firefighter or go through the volunteer academy, I really questioned whether or not that was possible for me. I really wondered whether or not I would be able to do that, even though it was something that excited me. And so I started training really hard. And the more that I was involved in the fire service, the more I fell in love with it. And as I was volunteering, a job opening came up at Poudre Fire Authority in Fort Collins, which is a department that I always admire. And I grew up in Fort Collins. And so it was a place that I was really interested in potentially pursuing a career in. And as I started trying to apply for the department, the more I really wanted to work there. And so I hired a personal trainer. I worked on my interviews. I did all the things in order to get hired. And what you have to understand about the fire service, if somebody doesn't know, is that oftentimes fire departments only have hirings a few times every couple years. So At that point in time, it was once every 3 years. They establish a list and then they hire people off of that list. And so I had to go and take the physical ability test for the fire department at PFA. I had a lot of people that were supporting me. And during that physical ability test, which was the last thing that I needed to do in order to be put on the list at Cooter, I ran out of time and I didn't make it. And that was really tough, right? Because I knew that it was going to be 3 more years before I would be able to test for that department again. And I think the defining moment for me was I realized that at that time I had 2 choices. One was this isn't for me, and all of the things that maybe were in my head about how I couldn't do this job were true and I could just give up. Or I could set my intention that this was something that I wanted to do. And if I worked hard enough that I would be able to accomplish it. And thankfully, I set the goal as the latter. And I told myself, I'm going to work at PFA and I'm not only going to get hired in the next round, but I'm going to be number 1 on the list. And so over the next 3 years, I worked my butt off. I got some really great experience and I was able to reach that goal.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, it's a great department, as you know. That's where I started, and so it's it's got a big place in my heart. But I think your story is really relevant for a lot of young people today, because they're gonna be faced with similar challenges as they pursue their career. And I think 2 things came out of your discussion. One is you found your passion, or your passion found you.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that's what you needed to do, and then you set the course to make that happen. And I think the other piece of your conversation was I really didn't know about the fire service until I was exposed to it. And I think that's a really important point for young people is sometimes you don't know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, and I think that's something I like to share with young people a lot, because I think when I was in my early 20s, late teens, I felt really lost because there were a lot of people that really did know what path they wanted to take and what their major was going to be and where they were going to end up. And for me, I was still trying to figure it out, but I felt like there was this time crunch on me on when I had to have this figured out by. And looking back, I realized there's a lot of time and there's a lot of time to figure things out. And it is okay to not know everything and to be able to just kind of follow some of your passions and strengths and see where that leads. And for me, it ended up being in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important advice. So, you're in the fire service and you really got into the whole mental health aspect of not only for first responders, but for other people as well. And you've built a model that the concept of mindset reps. And could you kind of share where that idea came from and what does it mean in practice?
Absolutely. So I shared a little bit about my journey and how fitness was a barrier for me in order to get hired in fire service. But within my fitness journey and to get hired, I also realized that fitness is a really amazing modality to be able to build confidence and strength and overcome things. And I really do believe that sport and fitness can teach us a lot of life's lessons. It sure taught me a lot of life's lessons. And so Mindset Reps is about combining mental health and physical fitness because the mind and the body are connected. When I was in the fire academy, we had this sign that sat on our desk and it said, repetition is the motor of learning. And that's always stuck with me. And what they meant by that was that, if you throw a ladder over and over and over again, then all of a sudden it becomes second nature and you're able to do that under high stress situations. But for me, what I've learned is there is a physical truth to that, but there's also a mental truth to that too. The more that we work on our mindset and our positive thinking, the more that we build different neural pathways in that direction, whether it's building confidence or strength. And so, Mindset Reps is really about building mental and physical strength. I started coaching teenagers CrossFit when I was first into the fire service. And what I recognized was that these teenagers were more willing to open up after a workout than they were at any other time that I was spending with them. And so that's really kind of what sparked that idea of combining both things because in the gym, you do hard things. Sometimes the things that we tell ourselves, whether it's I want to give up or maybe I could do one less rep than is prescribed, then you can really,
Yeah.
really use those lessons of like, okay, well, where is that happening in the rest of your life? When we do hard things together, a lot of studies show that that creates bonding, and exercise is proven to reduce anxiety and depression and all sorts of different things. So it's really been a model to be able to have some unique ways to go about mental and physical health.
So you've blended this model between therapy and fitness in a really intentional way. And so, can you share a moment where that approach really created a breakthrough with maybe somebody that you worked with on the job or someone that you've seen off the job and are trying to help out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the two populations that we primarily serve are teenagers and first responders. So I can share a little bit of a story about both. So when we first started our program, we really said like, hey, if we can help one teenager, then this is all worth it. We had a kid that had not been able to make any of the sports teams that he was on. And so he came into our program to be able to have somewhere that he felt like he could be a part of a team with a group. And with that experience, he was able to build some confidence. He was able to have some mentorship to help him in the career field once he graduated high school. And currently, he is now still with our program at 26 years old, and he's one of our coaches. And so
Wow.
he's able to pour back into other teens and be able to share his journey about how he went from being a teen in the program to now coaching in our program. With the first responders, oh man, I think every single person that's been a part of our group has had an amazing story or breakthrough at some point. But we've had people come into our program that have struggled with addiction, that have gotten sober and continue to be sober a few years later, just because they had the support of a group and a group that cared about them. And also being in the gym and challenging themselves helped them recognize that if they wanted to continue getting strong in the gym and creating those healthy habits, it was really difficult to do that if you had drank quite a few beers the night before.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we've all been there once or twice. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those moments are really neat to see people go through those breakthroughs and just the mind and body connection that people have when they're in the gym. So a lot of the way that our program runs when we're doing in-person sessions is we meet as a group, we do a check-in, we learn some type of psychoeducation that applies to whether it's a teenager's life or a first responder's life and some of the things that they may be going through. And then we actually try to take that concept and teach it in the workout. So for example, if we're talking about what is in our control and what isn't in our control, we may say what is in your control in a workout and what is not in your control. So it's recognizing that maybe your effort is in your control. Maybe what I program for the day is not in your control. What show up is in your control. And so we talk about a lot of those concepts and then have them work out, and then we can apply that to our life situations later. And I think some of that recognition within people during the workout sometimes has some emotional response to it as well when they are able to kind of have that mind body connection.
Yeah, I can see where that's very, very important. And, I think that just the camaraderie that comes from that effort collectively has a big impact. I know we see that with first responders who respond every day together. But I think the same is true in other professions as well, is, the more you work together, train together, work out together, the closer the bond and, the more effective the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I know some people love or hate CrossFit, but part of the reason why it has been so successful is because
Mhm.
camaraderie that is achieved in the gym with people working out together and kind of creating that community. And so that's a lot of what we try to do so that a lot of the things that first responders or teenagers want to talk about come out more naturally. It's really tough to have a whole bunch of first responders sit around a table and say, "Hey, go ahead and tell me all of your feelings."
Yeah, that doesn't work out real well. Yeah.
But you put a group of people together and have them work through things together, and all of a sudden it builds trust, it builds camaraderie, and sometimes those conversations naturally happen.
Yeah. Shifting gears just a little bit. You've trained in eye movement desensitization. Am I saying that right? Reprocessing, EMDR. So, I've read a lot about that, and I've heard a lot about that. It's really having some real impact on first responders, but also the general population. So, could you kind of explain what that is and how you utilize it?
Absolutely. So, aside from doing some of the stuff in the gym, I also see people on an individual basis. And one of the techniques I use is EMDR, like you mentioned. So, EMDR has been proven to be very successful with reprocessing trauma. And so, what it is it uses what's called bilateral stimulation, which is left to right movement that you can do either with eye movement back and forth or by holding some paddles that kind of buzz left to right. And what you actually do is you can have somebody think about an experience, and it helps activate both the left and the right side of the brain. So sometimes those traumatic events or things that have gotten stuck in our life come to the surface, and we're able to process through them and kind of put them in the right category. And it is very effective. One of the reasons I love using this with first responders is because a lot of the work that you do in EMDR therapy is in your own head. And so while you will have a counselor that is kind of guiding you or leading you through the process, the first responder or the teenager or anyone in the general public doesn't have to talk about exactly everything that's going through their mind. Sometimes it's really hard for somebody to come in and say something out loud to someone they don't know very well. And so a lot of the work happens on its own. And um, the sooner that somebody comes into the office after dealing with the trauma, the easier it is to process it. So can kind of think about it like pouring cement. And for a while, that cement is pretty pliable and you can move it around. But over time, it becomes a little bit more hardened. And so this is true in trauma as well, as if somebody has some deep childhood trauma, it doesn't mean that we can't work through it, but maybe it's going to take a lot longer than somebody who has come and it's only been a couple weeks since an event that has happened.
Mhm.
But for first responders who are dealing with a difficult call that they've responded to, if they come in and do EMDR 30 days after the call or 3 weeks after the call, oftentimes they may come in saying that that call is disturbing on a level. We do levels of 1 to 10, and they may say it's an 8 or 9. And sometimes by the time they leave the session, they're down to a 2 or a 3, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've actually talked with other providers that do this and people that have went through this process, and the reports I've gotten back, it's just really incredible how it works. It kind of reprograms and just lets you compartmentalize that so that it's not there. somehow.
Absolutely. And the way that I kind of explain it to my clients is that when you are thinking about a memory, if it's disturbing to you, that it can have and elicit this emotional response in you when you think about the incident. And what EMDR does is it doesn't erase the memory of the incident, but it really puts this separation where it doesn't elicit the same emotional response anymore,
Mhm.
which is pretty incredible.
So have you seen this used in other professions as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of therapists who use EMDR. EMDR can be used for, it's primarily used for trauma, but it really can be used for a lot of things. Therapists use it for grief, for addiction, for processing life events. So it can be used in a lot of different ways. And it's great with the regular population as well as first responders. It's great to use with teens as well. And so sometimes it just gives your brain a different way of thinking about an incident or something that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sooner the better. After an incident, or if you're having struggling with something, the sooner that you can utilize this, the better off you may be.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you are struggling with a difficult incident or a trauma of some sort, and for first responders, let's say that may be a difficult call that somebody went on, we call that um, it's more of a stressor within a 30-day window. So it can't actually be classified as post-traumatic stress disorder or injury until after 30 days. And it has to meet a bunch of different criteria. I don't think not that everybody recognizes that. So prior to that 30-day window, being able to process through something if it's bothering you can really be helpful in helping your brain kind of sift through where it wants to place that memory and how it wants to think about it. I will say, though, that people going on difficult incidences or dealing with trauma, um, having feelings of discomfort or wanting to process through things is also normal. Your brain wants to do that for, the first couple weeks. It wants to try to process through that on its own. So that's okay if people are thinking about things a little bit more or it's coming up for them. But what we want to happen is that our brain to work through that eventually and store it in the right places. And if that's not happening, that's where EMDR is really helpful and kind of helping facilitate that.
And it doesn't mean you're not gonna you can't recall that incident, right? It's still there, but when you recall it, you don't have that same emotional
Exactly.
reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fascinating. I wish we would have had that or known of that 25, 30 years ago. I think we could have helped a lot more people.
I agree. It is very fascinating. It's very well researched. And so it does have a lot of credibility in that regard.
So, could you walk us through one of your shift coaching sessions or departmental trainings that you've really walked away and went, that really had an
Yeah. So Shift is a program that we recently launched. It's an online education platform and small group coaching program. And so, really, Shift, what it is it's a lot of different educational classes that focus primarily for first responders on all of the dimensions of wellness or things that first responders face. So, everything from setting goals and building habits and time management to stress and trauma, learning about grief, sleep, and how sleep impacts the job as a first responder and things that you can do to kind of combat that, as well as leadership as well. So we take 13 weeks to go through a lot of different topics, and it focuses on personal and professional development. So for people who really want to develop themselves personally, whether that's as a leader or they want to understand the job better and give more to their team, or they want to develop as a leader, the program is really built for that. The reason that I built the Shift program is I wanted a way to be able to take all of the information I was teaching in my small groups and reach more people with that and really have them have a way to have actual transformation. I was finding that there are a lot of times that I would give a class and give great information, or that I would go to a class and receive great information, but I wouldn't actually apply it and put it into practice. And so I wanted a way that people would be able to have information in small doses, do some work around whatever that educational piece was, and then actually make some changes that stuck. And so that's really where the Shift program came about. We added in an option for small group coaching, which is groups of 6 people, and they meet weekly and they go over the content that we're learning in the class every week. And it's really a way for everyone in the group to keep each other accountable so that they actually achieve their goals and make the changes. Because we find that the more that we tell people about our goals and we're accountable to them, then you're able to keep those with 95% accuracy, which is pretty incredible. And our groups also have an opportunity for one person each week to kind of be in what's called the hot seat. And so the group focuses on that person's needs, and that can be a variety of things, whether it's relationship or wanting a promotion or setting a goal. Help them be able to brainstorm and figure out the next steps that they need to take and kind of have individual focused attention. And so everybody gets to be in that seat 2 times.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I would imagine that that's extremely helpful, because sometimes it's just a matter of kind of getting out of the way yourself sometimes and seeing things in a different perspective. And I think having that feedback from a peer group would be very, very valuable.
Yeah, it's very valuable. I think it's been very valuable for me as well. That's one of the lessons I had to personally learn. This Shift program has been in my head for quite a few years, but it wasn't until I asked some people I really admired to be a part of the program with me that I felt like, well, I can't let them down. I have to make this happen because I can't let the other people down. I really admire them. And so that's really what's helped me even bring something like this to fruition.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're looking to expand that out, because as I have moved up through the ranks and, worked at the senior level of government, if you will, local government, there's a real need out there in other organizations, other pieces of local government, and I think the private sector as well. I think there's folks are struggling with the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that is our long-term goal, would be to expand. Like many firefighters, I have that type A personality where I want everything to be perfect. But right now we're really focusing on a pilot group to try to work some of the bugs out. And then hopefully in January, we'll really be able to expand the program to reach more people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great effort, and I would encourage you to continue to go
thank
down
you.
that path. Yeah. Well, you wear a lot of hats. You're a fire lieutenant, you're a counselor, coach, wife, and a mom. And how do you personally stay resilient in both your mind and your body?
I think that's a great question. And so I enjoy staying busy, but making sure that I stay balanced is also a challenge. And so I really have to focus on that for myself, especially wearing multiple hats. And so what I've found that works for me is really just kind of putting some boundaries in place that have really helped me out. So for example, my kids are in school until 3 p.m. And so I'll allow myself to see clients and work on some of the business side of things during that time. But after 3, when my kids get out of school, then I focus on them and taking them to sports practice and spending time with my kids and my family. We really enjoy doing a lot of fun things with our family and exploring. Physical fitness is a huge one for me. That's how I am able to handle stress or de-stress is really the physical fitness piece. And so I try to be really intentional about following a physical fitness routine, and then also just trying to schedule in things that are just for me. So I
Mhm.
I can be extroverted, But I think by nature, I'm actually more of an introvert. I am somebody that really recharges by doing things on my own as well. So whether that's going on a hike or just spending time getting a coffee by myself or going on a walk by myself, sometimes that also recharges me. But it is a difficult balance trying to wear all of the different hats. It, I'm working on saying no to more things. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with as well, that I can relate to, is being intentional about what I'm choosing to spend my time doing.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I mean, I think we've all been there, is especially when I think you're younger and you're trying to come up through an organization, and so you want to be involved in everything, and boy, you can burn yourself out pretty quickly. And you need to find, like you say, that balance and learn to say no to yourself. I don't have to do that. Let's keep my balance a little.
Absolutely. And I think it's true for everybody, but particularly in the fire service, when people join the fire service, they may have had a great balance in family and friends, and maybe they go to church and they have outside activities. But when we get into the fire service, all of a sudden we work a third of our lives at the firehouse. And it's really easy to spend your time now. All of your friends become fire service friends, and the activities that we do end up being things that are focused around the fire service, or maybe there's overtime, or there are classes to take. And so it's really easy all of a sudden for this pizza pie that you have that would represent balance to become filled with all fire service related activity classes. And what happens is, if that's the case, it becomes really hard when we retire, or maybe somebody gets injured, just because all of a sudden the first responder world or the fire service becomes who we are, not a part of who we are or what we do. And so really being intentional about that balance. I remember when I was a brand new firefighter, Chief Randy Morawski said, for every time that you take a fire department class, you need to do something with your family. And so whether if you go on a 2-day class, take a 2-day class, then you need to take 2 days and do something with your family. And so really being intentional about some of that balance.
Well, that's great advice. Randy always had really good advice. I was fortunate.
Yes.
I got to work with him. So he was actually one of my firefighters, and then was one of my lieutenants when I was battalion chief on shift. So he was always the sage of the group.
And he still is. He still is.
Yeah, he still is.
Yeah.
Yes, he still is. Yeah, he's just one of those individuals that has a really great insight and can really provide exceptional influence, even if you don't realize
Absolutely.
he's doing
It's a gift.
Yeah, until far after the fact, and then you'll find out how he guided you. And he was doing that even as a firefighter and riding on my crew. Yeah, I just didn't realize it at the time. So that's just that was just I think a vision of where his future was and the leader that he has become, and the influence he's had on.
Absolutely. And I think you bring a really great point where you can be a leader at any position in the organization, no matter where you are. And sometimes people think of leadership as only those high level positions, but there are a lot of really great leaders at all levels in the organization. And sometimes those are the most influential leaders.
Yeah. You don't need a title to lead. And if you take that viewpoint when you're starting any profession, I think it'll carry you much farther than if you think that you have to have that title to make an impact, because you don't. So what's a self-practice that you rely on that might surprise you?
So I actually play tennis. I grew up playing tennis. And so it's a sport that I love. And I got back into playing tennis once my kids were able to go to school, and started playing on a team or just doing drills. We have a tennis family. So my mom plays tennis. My dad plays tennis. So a lot of times we'll actually still do drills where we're playing together. But I love playing tennis. And the reason why it's such a great self-practice for me is because the people that I play tennis with are not related to anything else that I do. It's not the college friends that I hung out with. It's nobody from the fire service. So it's something that's totally separate. Tennis, I think, is one of the best mental games. And so there's a lot of strategy that comes with tennis and just trying to figure out different shots and reading plays. And so that's really exciting for me, but it is a complete break from everything else that I do, and wear all of those hats, right? It's kind of totally separate. And so it's really been a good way for me to just kind of disconnect from other things and do something totally different. That's really fun.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the a nugget of information is, find something that's totally removed for what you typically do. And so that you can totally disengage from, your day-to-day, worries and stress and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And sometimes I'll, when I'm working with clients, in order that disengagement sometimes is really important. And so we talk about it in the fire service or with first responders, but I think whatever job that somebody's working that potentially is stressful, having some time or even a routine that helps somebody transition from one role to another. So if it's leaving the office and then going home, can you have some type of a routine that helps you kind of put one hat away and put on another? And so, when I leave the station, a lot of times I'll shower and change clothes and be very intentional of I'm leaving my lieutenant hat here and now I'm going to be a mom.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. No matter what profession you are, when you leave, if you can leave it there, make that transition.
That could be breathing. That could be, there's people do a lot of different things. They'll use essential oils, or maybe it's just a mantra, but having that separation can be really helpful.
So looking ahead, what do you see? What's next for Mindset Reps?
So our long-term goal is just to extend the program and be able to reach more teenagers in our area as well as first responders. We have an excellent team that pours into our first responders and our teenagers. And we just want to be able to reach more teenagers and have them have pretty incredible stories. So another story that we have from a teenager, a lot of the teens that we serve are from the underserved population. We target giving opportunities to teens that wouldn't have access to mental and physical health programs. So kids that are in the juvenile justice system or even at Platte Youth Services, that's a juvenile correctional facility, kids in foster care, alternative schools, kids without housing. So that's kind of the population that we focus on. And we really try to help our kids transition from, if they're in Platte Youth Services into a program in our community and then into a mentorship program and a coaching program. And so we would love to expand that. We'd love to be able to reach more first responders. That's the goal, I think, with the SHIFT program is bringing it online and being able to serve more people nationwide. And eventually, the goal of our team would be to take some of the modality that we've developed with integrating mental and physical fitness and be able to help others integrate that model as well.
Well, two really great objectives. I love the Mindset Reps for young people that have come through some hard times, because I think that helps kind of reprogram them or refocuses them to not carry that with them, if you will, and really maybe see a better path.
Absolutely. And some of these kids just don't have the mentorship or haven't ever been taught simple skills of how to get a job or prepare for an interview. And so our program it's about fitness and teaching psychoeducation, but it's really also about mentoring these kids. We tell our kids, we are not going to put in more effort than you do, but if you put in the effort and you keep showing up, we will match that effort and we will be there for you and we will help you. So we've helped kids fill out applications for school and get jobs and practice interviews. And get rides to our groups. So we really want kids to recognize that if they put in the work, then they are able to see the outcomes from that. And so we reward effort. So kids in our program earn points or tickets for showing up and participating. So we don't make anyone participate, but with those points, then they are allowed to buy shoes or hygiene items or have opportunities to go to our leadership camp. And so really trying to teach kids, lifelong lessons outside.
Excellent. I mean, I can't applaud your effort there enough. I mean, because that's really changing the course of their life. Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, we saw that with our first youth who's now a coach with us. And I think we have some really incredible kids who have done really amazing things. And like I said, I have a great team. And I think all of us have the same heart that we've seen these kids grow in amazing ways. And that's what just keeps us. Mm-hmm.
No, and you've shared a new vision for what their life could be.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of them, that's all they need because they just haven't had that opportunity. So for others who want to bring fitness and therapy together, what advice would you?
So I think there are a lot of different ways you could integrate fitness and therapy. It doesn't have to be kind of the typical CrossFit style that we use, but any time that you're integrating that mind and body is really amazing. So that can be with dance, that could be with basketball, that could be with just going for a walk. So just going for a walk with someone really activates some of that bilateral stimulation that we talked about with EMDR. And so can help teens process through things and as well as the general population. And so just integrating a little bit of that can be helpful. But we're also here to help people who want to kind of get involved in that process. We've written programming, fitness programming, as well as mental health programming that our goal is to expand. And so some of the struggles that we went through on how do we integrate this or what are some of the things that we need to set up, we've started that process of getting all of that organized so that we're able to share that with other people who are wanting to implement some of that.
That's great. So, Taylor, as you look at the next generation of leaders, whether in public safety or mental health or just the broader community, what wisdom would you pass along to them to help build their own resistance and lead with purpose?
So I think there's a few different things that have helped me. One is really doing some of that internal work and figuring out who you are as a person. I think that's really helped me in the leadership role as well, is figuring out who I am and keeping true to myself and then leading from there. And some of that has meant that I've had to learn things about myself, right? As well. So some of that self-development and always wanting to get better with self-development has been helpful. But I think also staying true to who you are as you start going into the leadership roles. And so I remember studying for the lieutenant's exam, and discipline is a topic that comes up a lot when you're studying for promotions. Like, how are you going to deal with discipline, or how are you going to deal with difficult situations as they arise? And there's a lot of different models for that. And what I found to be helpful for me is to find a mentor who happened to be a captain I had named Jay Clausen, that I admired on how he handled those things and really kind of talking through who I wanted to be when I was in that leadership role. And I may be a little bit untraditional that I think you can still be a friend and a leader at the same time in an organization. And really building relationships with the people around you. I think relationships and communication and leadership are really important. Because if you have a great relationship with someone and you've poured that into that person, it's like adding these pennies or coins to the piggy bank. So if you have to have a difficult conversation, it's not like you have this fatal withdrawal from that piggy bank. Whereas if you have never invested anything in anyone or built that relationship, then it can be a lot harder when you have to have those harder conversations. So, I think learning about yourself and building relationships and just figuring out who you want to be as a leader, I think those are the things that I've taken away that have been helpful to me.
Yeah, all great perspectives, and I think really finding out what you want to do with your life is another critical. I talk with a lot of young people today, and a lot of them feel like they're stuck. And it's not only young people. I mean, I've seen a lot of people in jobs that have worked it for 20 years, and they said, "I don't really like this job." And you always wonder, well, why did you stay? Right? Because you kind of get in that cycle, and could be economic driven, but whatever. But if you can find your purpose and your path, and build those relationships,
Absolutely,
your life's going to be much happier.
I think you bring up a good point, especially in the first responder field. Sometimes when people have been in this career a long time and maybe they've seen a lot, they feel like they can't leave because they feel like it's almost this golden handcuffs, right? You make decent money, and do my skills transfer? What do they transfer to? But there's a lot of skills that first responders have that they don't recognize when it's working under pressure and making decisions. And, there's a lot of different skills that people have. But our passions and our strength and purpose isn't always what we think. I look back at my life, and I've combined fitness and therapy and firefighting. And if you look at those three things on their own, you would say, would those ever be connected? So, thinking outside the box too.
Yeah. And just be open, because you just never know where your path can take you if you're,
Absolutely,
open to the opportunities. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for being with me today on the Leadership Crucible podcast. Pleasure and an honor, and it's
you as well. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Crucible podcast. If you enjoyed today's content, make sure you tap on the subscribe button, share this with a friend, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. For more resources, check out the description below, sign up for our monthly newsletter, and visit our website at theleadershipcruciblefoundation.org. Feel free to leave us a comment and connect with us on social media at the links below. We'll see you next time.